you, the listener, why is it so hard for you to understand your value? Why is it so difficult for you to have boundaries? What's going inside of you that prevents you from being able to have your shoulders back and say, here is my respective rate of pay if you buy a home during this time period? For some of you, that scares you. And I think that there's something inside that you need to get on top of, because in a healthy environment, discussions around compensation are welcomed.
Welcome to the Systems Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by CoreLogic. Today's conversation is incredibly important and timely. If you're paying attention at all, and I bet almost everybody is at this moment, there's a lot of changes coming to commissions and buyer agency and the entire relationship with all of our clients. And it's incredibly complicated waters to navigate. If you're talking to buyers about buyer's agency right now, this is a podcast that you want to really stop and listen to, where I interview Barry Jenkins, who has been a master of buyer's agency in his very large team and brokerage operation in Virginia for a long, long time. I think this conversation can really help you. And he's built some materials that can help you as well. And we're going to be linking to that in the show notes here. So dig in and listen to my conversation with Barry Jenkins. How you doing, Barry?
Man, I'm fantastic. Excited to be here.
Cool. Well, Barry, if you guys don't know, is, top broker in Virginia Beach, tech guru in the real estate space to some extent as well. And now, best-selling author of when's your second book coming out?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
You're still working on it. Like me.
I'm halfway done.
Okay, cool. Well, I know that journey, man. I'm sorry to go like that, but your first Too Nice for Sales is super incredibly awesome, and every salesperson should read it.
Yeah, we reached 25,000 sales, so it's really exciting.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, it's, certainly one of the best books I've read on sales in general, but specific to that. I know you wrote it specific to real estate sales, or pretty specific to real estate sales, but would be a powerful tool for any salesperson. So anyway, so all that said, Barry is a voice that I listen to, and you guys should definitely listen to. And he told me the other day, or posted or something, about a course that he was releasing specific to buyer's agency. And I know that the way Barry runs his business, you've had a process for a long, long time, Barry, around this. And I've been talking to agents and brokers all over the country in the last couple of weeks, and actually shocked to find out how few agents and brokers in any market understand what this looks like. So I'm so excited to unpack all this with you.
Yeah. I'm excited to be here, Matt. I'm really grateful for your podcast and getting the word out for things that matter in the industry. Let me be really clear. We don't know the implications of the NAR settlement. We don't understand completely the impact it's going to have, but we do know a couple of things. Likely, agents that represent buyers are going to have to approach their meetings with buyer clients similar to how you would with a seller. And this is where you, if you think about a listing appointment, you sit down with the client and say, here's all the things I'm going to do to sell your home. Here's my track record of selling homes in your area. Here's my respective rate of pay if I complete a sale. Buyer's agents have gleefully been able to avoid that uncomfortable conversation because the compensation has been from the seller. Whether that changes or not, because there's a lack of clarity around compensation, which is kind of the settlement with NAR, it's basically removing compensation from their MLSs. Now it's going to bring an opportunity to have to talk about your rate of pay. I've been obsessing about this for 6 months. And here's the good news. The good news is the major players in our industry, Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin, they've all built these billion-dollar or million-dollar businesses off of creating a portal that helps people that have certainty and clarity around what their needs are, pick out a house and schedule a showing. And then what Zillow does is says to the agent community in the respective market, we have someone that wants to see 123 Smith Street, or they have questions about 123 Smith Street. whoever wants this lead, I'm going to give it to you, but I'm going to want 40% of that commission, right? So that's been that way for a while. And candidly, I didn't really see a way to compete with them around that. I think they've done a fantastic job when the consumer has certainty. But there's a whole segment of the buyer pool that lacks certainty and clarity, specifically leads found on Google and Facebook, searching for things like homes for sale, mortgage calculator, what is my home worth, right? All of these questions. And then you call these people, and instead of them saying, I want to see 123 Smith Street, they say to you, I'm not ready yet, right? And you're frustrated about it. And I want you to understand something. I've been at this for 25 years. The market crash of 2008 completely obliterated me financially. 3 years later, I made my first million in real estate, and I've never looked back. Each iteration of the market, I quickly pivot and I look for the opportunity. The opportunity right now is this. You need to find people that don't know what they want and don't think they need an agent yet, but do have an aspirational dream to buy or sell one day. You need to meet with those people. You need to talk to them about the real estate process as a whole. And during that time, during that appointment, you need to go over the buyer broker agreement or whatever you call it in your market. Kerry Scholl in DC likes to call it the loyalty agreement. And we stole that. We still call it the buyer broker agreement because that's the legal name, but then we reframe it and we say, this is called the buyer broker agreement, but we like to call it a loyalty agreement. And that loyalty agreement is where we sit down and we discuss agency, what I'm going to do for you. Now, here's the key here. Instead of being disappointed that the consumer is not ready to look at a home, we celebrate their lack of certainty. I'm so glad you're not ready. This is fantastic that I'm talking to you while you're not ready to buy a home. I can't believe the serendipity of this moment. Mr. Smith, the reason why I'm so excited is because normally with my other clients, I set an appointment for 45 minutes. We sit down. I want to teach you and empower you about this process. It is likely the largest financial transaction of your life. It deserves careful consideration and wise planning. Now, I like to have these appointments Wednesday afternoons or Saturday mornings. What works best for you? During that appointment, as I've already said, we go over the process. We set 558 appointments in the month of February doing this. There are droves of consumers that don't think they're ready for a realtor. But by affirming their lack of readiness, capitalizing on an opportunity to educate them, we are creating our own pipeline. And what's fantastic about this is Zillow cannot teach the consumer as well as my agent can. There's something about the face-to-face appointment. And so in the midst of this chaos, in the midst of this fear, there's a moment of opportunity where we get to be relevant again and advocate for whatever our respective rate of pay is. And so I want you to know, Matt, that as scary as change can be, I know I'm going to be just fine. And agents can take this same disposition and become wildly successful in a moment that likely, and I'm not happy about this, a lot of agents are going to leave the industry because they don't know how to sell their value. They remember, they remember that it used to be different, and they feel guilty that they need to sit down and talk about their rate of pay. And unless they get on top of that, and a lot won't, because emotional awareness is not necessarily in abundance in our culture, they're not going to do that, and they're going to end up leaving. And so while I don't want that for them, I want better for them. I do know it's going to happen. And I do believe that my business will grow as a result of these changes.
Barry, I mean, gosh, you just framed it so eloquently, but I want to hit on a couple things that you said that get lost, even though they've been true forever, which is step one is you have to have enough lead flow first, and then you have to have a process to actually engage those clients in agency agreements. And you have both of those things, but most agents haven't had to think that way in a long, long, long time on the buyer side at all. Right. And it's funny, I'm lucky when I got in the business 20 years ago, I had a broker in Georgia, it is the law. However, that doesn't mean that it was always done, but I had a broker who taught me well. Like we had buyer brokerage agreements every time, before we showed the first house. We went, now my process wasn't as sophisticated as yours is now, but
it didn't need to be.
What's that?
It didn't need to be.
No, it didn't, but it was it's interesting when I didn't realize how I would, just anecdotally, I would say 95% of the market is not doing that.
No.
And
it's required by law, and still a lot of agents don't do it.
Right. That's how it is in Georgia, and so, but for sure, every big team that has a process that's spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on those leads, like the leader of that team is saying, you know what, we're going to have agency agreement. Like I would say it's probably prevalent at the top. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. 100%. And what's difficult for people, and I go over this in some of the teaching, is that, and I ask you, the listener, why is it so hard for you to understand your value? Why is it so difficult for you to have boundaries? What's going inside of you that prevents you from being able to have your shoulders back and say, here is my respective rate of pay if you buy a home during this time period? For some of you, that scares you. And I think that there's something inside that you need to get on top of, because in a healthy environment, discussions around compensation are welcomed. Now, your boss might not always give you a pay raise, but in a healthy working environment, your boss is going to affirm you, listen to what you have to say, and you're going to be able to have a dialogue, maybe even a negotiation around what your rate of pay is. And in a healthy environment, you're not going to be penalized as a result. And so I think we're so used to toxic work environments that we're bringing that negative energy into this discussion instead. But like my attorney, I met with a few attorneys, and he said to me, he said, let me tell you what's going to happen. He said, when the other side hears that I'm involved, the first thing that's going to happen is their attorney is going to call their client and say, we need to meet. So-and-so's involved. Everything has changed. Now, I knew that could be a line. I did. I knew it when I heard it, and it still worked so well. I was like, what's your retainer? Just tell me what do you cost? Like,
I love it. I love it. But he delivered it with tremendous confidence and swagger. And you're like, where do I sign? Right.
Love it. And that's that energy we need to bring into our clients with our buyers. There's a way to do this, but I'm telling you guys, the agents that have been doing this a while, you have some baggage that you need to deal with. No, it has not always been this way. And I posted a picture in a Facebook group I'm a part of. It's the old Innovator Die, and it looks like Blockbuster. Blockbuster had an opportunity to be Netflix, and they're like, no way. People love the smell of popcorn in our, and I did. I love the way the when you walk in, you could smell the DVDs or the videos and the popcorn. I loved it on Friday night. But ultimately, like, if I could click a button and not go anywhere, like, that's what I went with. So Innovator died. We all are going to have to pivot, and there's a way forward that's not going to destroy all of our businesses.
Yeah, well, and it's still Back to the Future, right? Gary Keller's book 20 years ago, when I got in the business, I was a Keller Williams agent. Somebody handed me that book. I'm like, I'm going to do everything this dude says, right? And he said, look, lead flow comes first. If you have an abundance of opportunities, you can walk in and go like, listen, I would love to work with you. Here's the way I work. And if you want to work with me, awesome. Here's the rules. But you have to have another lead behind it to go like, I don't need this deal, right? It has to come from, if it's coming from that scarcity, you're dead.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And so the course that I've been working on in conjunction with Ylopo, so if you're a Ylopo customer, you get it free, no problems, is specifically going over an agreement. Now, it's not going over commission rates and things that are like, I'm not discussing commission rates with y'all, right? Like, I'm not going to be guilty of antitrust violations. It doesn't also go over the different kinds of terms of a buyer broker agreement. What I'm teaching on is how to go over a document that has a request for compensation if you perform. And so the mindset behind understanding your worth, the talking points, how to not get buried in the details of a document. You're going to overwhelm them. Tell them what's important. How to handle objections. Like, what if I find a home that there's no commission? How are you going to handle that? So talking through those things And doing so confidently really does matter. And so I think that this is like one of those now moments where people are, you're either going to level up or you're going to level out. That's really the end of the day.
Absolutely. Well, so tell me a little bit about the course. I mean, I think it's incredibly at this moment, everybody who touches buyer side agreements needs some kind of training and education. Maybe some are going to get it from their broker or wherever, but there's a whole flood of people that need what you're putting available right now. So tell me more about how I find it. What are the details?
So I gave you a link, and if you're a Ylopo customer, they can just contact me on the website of the bookstore or the store and let me know you're a Ylopo customer. I'll get you a coupon code. We also, Ylopo is I'm working on a new version of the course as well for Ylopo customers. So there's like 2 pathways that you could take it, and so far it's a now moment. It's been needed, and really all I did was I took the videos that I sent to my agents and I turned it into a course. And it's like a 45-minute little mini session. But again, you guys need to understand how to share your value, share your worth. It's really important.
Cool. Awesome. Barry, thanks so much for taking the time. I hope everybody, clicks the link and looks at this material, because now is the time to take that opportunity and start building that buyer pipeline like Barry Jenkins does up in Virginia. So thanks again for being here, bro.
Thanks.